3,000 years ago, in the humid lowlands of Mexico, the Olmec discovered something impossible. They crushed bitter seeds, mixed them with water and chili peppers, creating a foamy dark liquid. The people believed this drink was a bridge between the human and the divine. That civilization was the Olmec, and their invention would fuel a $130 billion industry today. The journey from a sacred jungle ritual to the grocery store is strange and bloody. It's a story of discovery, conquest, alchemy, and obsession spanning 3,500 years of human history. We have to go back 3,500 years to understand our chocolate obsession. Back to a world where money literally grew on trees and a single cup could change everything. Back to a time when empires would rise and fall over access to a single plant. This is the secret history of chocolate, a history that reveals the deepest truths about human nature, power, and civilization itself. The Olmec were the mother culture of Mesoamerica. Between 1500 and 400 BC, they built the first complex civilization in the Americas. They carved famous colossal stone heads, weighing up to 50 tons. These monuments stood as testaments to their power and sophistication. But their greatest legacy wasn't carved in stone. It was botanical knowledge, spiritual knowledge, knowledge that would echo through 3,000 years of human history. Deep in the humid rainforest grew a mysterious tree with strange, football-shaped fruits. This tree was Theobroma cacao, which literally means food of the gods. The Olmec named it this prophetically, though they had no way of knowing how prophetic it would become. Getting to the food part required a process that felt like alchemy. It was a transformation of raw ingredients into something sacred and powerful. The white, sugary pulp surrounding the seeds was placed in clay vessels and sat in jungle heat for days while fermentation happened. The chemical structure of the beans inside changed fundamentally during this process. The bitterness mellowed as fermentation progressed. The astringency softened and disappeared entirely. The precursor to that distinctive chocolate smell was born during fermentation. It was chemistry without chemistry, pure biological transformation happening naturally. After fermentation came roasting over open fires, with beans spread on woven mats near crackling flames. The heat drove off remaining moisture and developed the flavor compounds. This created the chemistry that makes chocolate smell like chocolate today. Next came grinding on a stone slab called a metate, using a handheld mano tool. The beans broke down into a thick paste, rich, dark, and incredibly bitter. This wasn't candy. This was a chemical cocktail with powerful properties. Cacao contains theobromine, a natural stimulant chemically similar to caffeine. But theobromine works very differently than caffeine in the human body. While caffeine provides a sharp spike and rapid crash, theobromine offers a longer, smoother energy boost. It increases alertness without causing the jitters. For the Olmec, this drink was a performance enhancer for the spirit and mind. It was more than a beverage, it was a tool for consciousness. When the cacao paste was ready, they mixed it with water and chili peppers. The mixture was poured vigorously back and forth between two vessels. This technique created a thick, stable foam on top of the drink. The foam was the most prized part, the soul of the drink itself. It was served in ceramic vessels reserved for the most important ceremonies. For the Olmec, drinking cacao was never casual or ordinary. It was spiritual. It was ritual. It was communion with the divine. The consumption of the food of the gods was believed to grant wisdom. It was believed to enhance spiritual connection and open pathways to the divine. The Olmec discovered not just a drink, but a key that unlocked something profound in human consciousness itself. They guarded this knowledge carefully through generations. Their empire lasted over 1,000 years, maintaining the sacred traditions. But around 400 BC, the Olmec civilization declined, and what they left behind was a gift and a curse for civilizations that would follow. Their secrets passed to a new civilization that would inherit their obsession. The Maya didn't just inherit the recipe for cacao. They inherited an all-consuming obsession with chocolate. For the Maya, chocolate wasn't just part of life. It was the source of it. It was cosmologically central to their entire civilization. It was the answer to the most fundamental question: where did we come from? In the Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya creation text, the gods used cacao as a fundamental ingredient. They used it to craft the first human beings. The Maya believed humanity was literally made of chocolate. This wasn't metaphor, it was literal cosmological truth in their worldview. For Maya elite, nobles, priests, and warriors, chocolate was woven into every major life event. It appeared in births, marriages, and deaths. Cacao was exchanged at weddings literally. The joining of two families was marked by the ritual exchange of precious cacao. Cacao appeared in funerary rituals, poured into graves to sustain the elite in the afterlife according to Maya belief. Cacao was currency, ritual object, and gift all at once. It was the most valued commodity in Maya civilization. The ultimate form of wealth in Maya society had standardized cacao bean values. 1 bean equaled a large tomato in exchange value. 3 beans equaled a fresh avocado. 100 beans equaled a whole turkey. And 1,000 beans equaled a person's labor for an entire lifetime. When you held a handful of cacao beans in 800 AD, you held wealth. You held power in your palm. You held your net worth literally in your hands. The most revealing ritual was the ritual of the foam. If you were a Maya noble or priest, you didn't just drink your cacao. You drank the foam specifically. The liquid was poured back and forth between 2 vessels held at chest height. This was a carefully choreographed motion performed with reverence. The pouring created a thick, stable head of froth on top of the liquid. This foam was the soul of the drink. It was the most prized part of the entire beverage. Some scholars believe the foam was a visible manifestation of divine presence, representing the spiritual essence of the cacao drink. The Maya cacao culture lasted for over 1,000 years. Kings rose and fell during this time. Cities thrived and collapsed around cacao cultivation, but through it all, cacao remained central to their civilization. Then, in the 1400s, a new empire rose to the north that was even more obsessed with cacao than the Maya had been. They were so dependent on cacao that they would wage actual wars for it. By the 1400s, the Aztec Empire dominated central Mexico with overwhelming power. From their capital Tenochtitlan, they ruled an empire of millions. They had built one of the greatest cities the world had ever seen, a metropolis that rivaled or exceeded the size of Paris or Rome. But the Aztec had a serious problem with their geography. Cacao trees cannot grow in the dry, cold air of their capital. Tenochtitlan sits at 7,000 feet elevation in the highlands where the climate is completely unsuitable for cacao cultivation. The Aztecs did what empires always do when they want something they don't have. They conquered the lands that could produce it. They demanded cacao as tribute, a form of taxation, and every year, millions of beans flowed into the capital from conquered territories. The sheer volume was absolutely staggering in its scale. Historical records show that in the early 1500s, the Aztec Empire collected between 600 million and 1 billion cacao beans annually. The emperor who most exemplified this obsession was Montezuma II, who ruled from 1502 to 1520 with absolute power. Historical accounts describe him as utterly consumed by cacao. He reportedly drank 50 golden goblets of chocolate a day. But Montezuma didn't consume cacao the way we do today. He didn't take it sweet like modern chocolate lovers do. He took it exactly as the Olmec had taken it, bitter and intense, with chili peppers, vanilla, and sometimes ground up flowers. It was served cold, thick, and incredibly potent. This wasn't dessert, this was medicine and fuel for the body. For the Aztec warrior, cacao was the ultimate pre-battle fuel that sharpened focus and enhanced endurance dramatically. It elevated mood and prepared warriors psychologically for combat. Warriors consumed large quantities of cacao before battle. It was their performance drug, similar to a modern athlete's energy drink but derived from a plant that genuinely altered brain chemistry. Cacao had another, darker role in Aztec society. It was the drink of sacrifice in religious rituals. The Aztec practiced ritual sacrifice on an incomprehensible scale with thousands of captives and sacrificial victims brought to pyramid tops. They were ritually sacrificed to the gods in ceremonial fashion. Before that final journey, they were given cacao to drink. The drink was called zacatl, bitter water in their language. Then, in 1519, Everything changed when a Spanish conquistador named Hernán Cortés arrived on the Mexican coast. He had heard rumors of a wealthy civilization in the interior. He had no idea he was about to encounter the largest empire in the Americas and a secret that would reshape the world. When Cortés arrived at Tenochtitlan and was received by Montezuma himself, the Spanish were shocked by what they saw. The city was larger than any European city at the time. The architecture was sophisticated beyond anything they had encountered. The civilization was complex, advanced, and utterly alien to Spanish eyes. When they were offered cacao, they hated it immediately. The Spanish conquistadors dismissed the drink as barbaric and crude, calling it fit for pigs. But they saw something else, value beyond measure. They saw that the Aztecs prized it above almost everything else. They understood this plant could make them rich beyond their wildest dreams. After conquering the Aztec Empire, the Spanish established colonial outposts throughout the region. They eventually established convents throughout Mexico and Guatemala in missionary efforts. It was in these convents that the transformation of cacao began in earnest. Spanish nuns lived isolated in convents far from home, attempting to recreate the tastes and comforts of their homeland. These isolated nuns began experimenting with cacao in their kitchens. They had access to spices and sugar, imports from Spain and Spanish colonies that were precious and expensive. They asked themselves, what if they changed the recipe? What if they sweetened the bitter drink? What if they served it hot instead of cold? The transformation was revolutionary and immediate. The hot, sweet, spiced drink was completely different from Aztec zacatl. The bitter water had become a sweet, addictive luxury that delighted the palate. Spain had discovered something extraordinary in those convents. They could take a plant used for 3,000 years and transform it into something new, something European, something profitable beyond measure. And Spain kept this recipe a state secret with fierce protection. For nearly 100 years, Spain maintained a complete monopoly on chocolate knowledge and preparation. The Spanish secret was so valuable that leaking the recipe was considered an act of treason. The penalty could be execution by the crown. Spain guarded their chocolate secret more carefully than they guarded their maps to the Americas. By the early 1600s, chocolate was the most expensive import in all of Europe. A cup of chocolate cost the equivalent of several days' wages for an ordinary worker. It was reserved for nobility, the wealthy elite, and royal courts exclusively. But by the late 1600s, the secret leaked out to other nations. It leaked to France, it leaked to England, it leaked to the Dutch and beyond. When the secret leaked, the entire landscape of European society began to shift dramatically. Chocolate houses became establishments where the elite gathered in exclusive fashion. They weren't casual cafes, they were exclusive and sophisticated spaces of power. The elite discussed politics in these spaces constantly and negotiated trade deals of enormous importance. For 3,500 years, making chocolate was labor-intensive and incredibly inefficient. You roasted beans, ground them on stone slabs by hand, mixed the paste with water laboriously. Then, in 1828, a Dutch chemist named Coenraad van Houten invented something revolutionary, a hydraulic press that would change chocolate forever. Van Houten's press removed the cocoa butter, the fat, from the cacao bean with mechanical precision. What remained was cocoa powder that could be easily dissolved. Chocolate preparation became infinitely simpler and faster. In 1847, a British candy maker named Joseph Fry made a crucial discovery in his laboratory. If you took cocoa powder and mixed it back with melted cocoa butter and sugar, the mixture stayed solid at room temperature. The first chocolate bar was born from this discovery. Suddenly, chocolate shifted from liquid luxury to portable commodity that could be carried and consumed anywhere. You could carry it in your pocket and consume it without preparation or ritual. You could mass-produce it in factories at scale. The industrial landscape of chocolate manufacturing exploded across Europe. Chocolate factories rapidly expanded through the 1800s with new technology. Mechanization increased production capacity exponentially and more workers were employed daily. What was once handcrafted luxury became industrial commodity available to everyone. But the chocolate from these early bars was still coarse and gritty. It wasn't what we would recognize as good chocolate today. The transformation came from an accident in a Swiss factory. In 1879, Swiss chocolatier Rodolphe Lindt left a chocolate mixing machine running, an oversight that would change chocolate forever. The machine ran continuously for 72 hours without stopping. When Lindt returned and discovered the mistake, he found something remarkable awaiting him. The chocolate had completely transformed into something beautiful. The acidity had been reduced dramatically and the texture had become velvety smooth. Lindt had discovered conching, constant mixing and heating that transforms chocolate at the molecular level. He patented the technique immediately and it became the industry standard. Every premium chocolate bar uses conching technology invented through Lindt's accident. Between 1828 and 1879, just 51 years, chocolate was completely transformed. It went from handcrafted ritual drink to industrial product manufactured at scale. It shifted from exclusive luxury to mass-market commodity affordable to ordinary people. Chocolate production once required intensive labor and was limited exclusively to the wealthy. Industrial production meant chocolate bars could be mass-produced inexpensively at factories. They were sold to anyone who could afford a few coins. The chocolate industry exploded across the globe. Chocolate shops appeared in every city and town. Workers could afford to buy chocolate as an inexpensive treat, and it became integrated into popular culture completely. The transformation was complete and irreversible. What started as a sacred Olmec ritual had changed fundamentally. 3,500 years of exclusivity and sacred significance had transformed into a commodity, and spiritual power had become commercial profit. Today, chocolate is everywhere, ubiquitous and ordinary in human life. Chocolate is a $130 billion annual industry globally. The average American consumes 11 pounds of chocolate per year, with Germany consuming over 20 pounds annually. The transformation from sacred to commercial hasn't erased the empire aspect. It's only changed the players and locations involved. 70% of the world's cacao now comes from West Africa, primarily from Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana. The plant that originated in Mexico and Central America now thrives in African soil primarily. It's produced for global consumption by international corporations. Profits flow to corporations headquartered in Europe and America exclusively. Child labor remains prevalent in cacao production today. Farmers in West Africa often make less than $1 a day. The wealth gap between producers and consumers is absolutely enormous and exploitative. It's a modern replication of colonial-era exploitation patterns. Different players, different location, same fundamental dynamic of extraction. Local producers receive minimal compensation for their labor while global corporations capture the majority of profits. There's a threat to this system more serious than economics itself. Climate change is reshaping where cacao can grow globally. It's happening faster than anyone anticipated or prepared for completely. Cacao is extraordinarily climate-sensitive to temperature changes. It thrives in a very narrow band of temperature and humidity. Too hot, and the plant becomes stressed and produces less. Too dry, and it simply dies completely. Climate change is pushing the cacao belt to its limits currently. Within 30 years, within a single generation, many regions that have grown cacao for centuries may become too hot. The very regions that inherited the Olmec's 3,500-year-old knowledge may disappear entirely. By 2050, we could lose 50% of current cacao growing capacity globally. Some regions could lose 100% of their ability to grow cacao completely. We could see chocolate become a luxury again, not by choice but by necessity. We went from a world where chocolate was so sacred that empires conquered for it. Now we might lose it to climate change and environmental destruction. The cycle completes itself, but in reverse completely. So the next time you snap a piece of chocolate, remember what you're really holding: 3,000 years of ritual, revolution, and empire, distilled into something that fits in your palm. It was once currency. It was once sacred. It was once worth killing and dying for. And it may not always be there. Enjoy it while you still can. That's the secret history of chocolate. If you want more stories like it, subscribing helps more than you'd think.